Stephen Mansfield, New York Times bestselling author and speaker.
Doug Tenaple, I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Tweet groups.
I'm Victor Dweck.
Joseph Carter, I'm the Mink Man.
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire.
This is Leanne Morgan. I'm a comedian, and this is why you should never
Not ever.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, you really should.
listen to those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Look, you started.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate episode 1 year.
390. Yeah.
No, it wouldn't be 390. First off, there's only 365 days in the year, and then there's only 52 weeks, which is all we do. I'm Lucas Pinkert. I'll be the Reverend.
Hey, everybody, welcome
episode.
To the Reverend and the
Danley
and the hot
is
one.
With me. Danley's with me also. The Reprobate, my partner in crime and best bud of several years. What's going on, Big Dan?
Several years. 3 whole years.
Yeah. Not even.
Yeah.
Not even.
No, man, I'm great.
Yeah, so it's been a weird year.
I'm flying high. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's been a really weird year.
So let's peel back the curtain a little bit on the Reverend and the Reprobate. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about
our spreadsheet.
Yeah, let's talk
We've
a little
got this
bit about
wonderful spreadsheet.
Yeah, so we're gonna.
If you can zoom in really close on the left-hand side of the screen.
On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see some stuff. No, so let's talk about the first year one of the Reverend and the Reprobate. We are celebrating our 1 year anniversary from the moment we started recording these episodes, which started out with just the two of us in a tiny little studio room with our wives crammed in there taking pictures. Now Colton is in that room full time as we've upgraded to an actual studio.
Yeah.
The show's grown.
It looks fantastic.
Yeah, the show's grown quite a bit.
Everyone who worked on the studio, kudos. It looks great.
Yeah, they did. The people at our church did a great job because we record a bunch of different podcasts and different YouTube videos and things like that in this space. And sometimes it's green screen, which is what we did for almost all of year one.
Yeah. I couldn't wear my favorite shirt.
Because of the green screen?
It has thin lines of green. And the first video that we shot with this brick background, I was wearing that shirt. I've been wanting to wear it for a whole year.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you did.
Yep.
It's about time you looked nice for one of our episodes.
Dang tootin'.
So...
Is that a phrase?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Darn tootin' is the phrase. So we... Like we said earlier, to peel back the curtain a little bit, we started this podcast because we both wanted a creative outlet. We were both spinning our wheels a little bit. Yeah.
I was slowly dying in the dark in the pandemic.
We were just doing other things. You know, we had work going on, but we really didn't have a great creative outlet. So that's what we started this podcast for.
I was slowly dying in the dark. I'll say that.
It's taken on a really weird life from where we started. Like when we first started the podcast, it was just us talking about, we were talking about news stories. We were talking about, funny things that we saw.
Chicken update.
Yeah, chicken updates, borrowing.
Some of our beginning, there was me getting in a wreck.
Yep.
I got in a wreck. We covered that.
Yeah, we did.
All of the chickens.
All of the chickens.
You had 100 chickens at your house that you're raising to then transport to Matt's house.
Yeah.
Where they would transform.
Were chicks. Yeah, they were chicks.
They were babies, but they would eventually transform his landscape.
Yeah, and that has, for the most part, that's worked fairly well.
Good.
We've added a producer who's just breathing into the microphone like a champ.
Yeah. That may have been me
Colton.
too.
We've also moved from a show that was just us talking about the things that were happening in our lives, reviewing news stories and things like that, to really getting interviews. Like we always
talk to people we
about.
have no business talking to.
Yeah,
it's been in the description of our show ever since we interviewed David Baker.
Well, I think it really was something we talked about in the beginning, but we've added it since then, is that we want to do interviews with people that we have no business talking to. We didn't know how to get into interviews at the beginning.
It's been my favorite thing this last year.
It's been absolutely awesome. Well, let's look at, if you saw earlier in that center sheet, I've got our guest list right here. We've had Greg Lewis, London Williams, Steve Ryder, David Baker, Stephen Mansfield twice, David Sherrill, Ron Waterman, Joseph Carter, Doug Tenaple, Victor Dweck, Michael Gruber, Jeremy Nunez, Leanne Morgan, Stephen Mansfield, Lee Harden, Brett and Aaron Kunkel, David Graham, Troy Basham, Moody Malavi, Jeff Allen, Don Marshall, Kira Davis, Seth Dillon, Justin Batt, Nancy Pearcey, our moms, Brandon Hollingsworth, Thor Ramsey, Jaden Frost, Nicholas Perdomo III, David Jesse, our dads, and then our last episode that ended year one was with our good friend Ricky Pope, who helped us with the Rev and Rep spoils stuff. This is crazy to me.
It's bizarre. It's bizarre because many of those names that you listed that we've gotten to talk to, I have been obsessed with them. These little micro obsessions where I'll find them on YouTube, or you'll find them, or we'll eventually one of us will get to talking to the other one. And we'll go, I've been following this guy or this girl, like Leanne Morgan. Both of us, independently found her during the pandemic. I don't know if it was something with her marketing team just really nailing it, but we both, found her. Our wives fell in love with her.
Right.
She's hysterical. We had her on. It's the most bizarre thing that has happened.
That one was
not just her, but I'm saying this whole list, this comprehensive list.
I think the first two guests that I was kind of starstruck with, because we started with Greg and with London, who are friends of ours.
Yeah, and I'm not starstruck with Greg.
Right, and then we had on Steve Ryder.
I do love Greg.
Who had an incredible story to tell, and it was great to just have him on to let him tell the story about the Never Alone project, how it got started, the stuff that they're doing with that. But that was followed by two guys that for me were like, sort of Mount Rushmore. Like, if we got these guys are going on the Mount Rushmore of year one. And that was back to back. We had David Baker on my birthday and then Stephen Mansfield. And Baker gave us a really cool opportunity to bring on my brother, who's not just a Forged in Fire fan, but also is a blacksmith.
Yeah.
And got to ask.
He's made some cool stuff too.
Yeah. But he got to ask David Baker some questions. It afforded a really opportunity between he and I.
He made us look like not complete idiots.
Oh my gosh, he saved us so big.
Because I don't know what I would ask him. Like, okay, we have a world class blacksmith on. We've got to ask some questions. How many times do you hit it before it turns into a sword?
Like, how many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop kind of thing? And we did, he was great. Where actually as we get started with year two of the Reverend and the Reprobate, we've got Mike Reiner coming on. Kristen Weber is going to be on. We have Lynn Ulbrich, who is fighting for the freedom of her son Ross, a.k.a. the Dread Pirate Roberts, who created a large portion of the dark web known as the Silk Road. We're going to be talking to her a little bit about his case and some of the ongoing events there, as well as having back on David Baker. We're having Tom Leopold.
Oh my God,
who's going to be a great guest. I mean, the lineup.
Some of these are making me nervous going into it. It's like, oh my gosh, how do we? Lee Harden talked to us about meeting the lead singer for MXPX,
right?
Mike Herrera, is that his name?
Yeah.
And how he fanboyed the whole time, or he turned into Chris Farley from the SNL skit.
Right. Remember that time?
Yeah,
when
remember that time when?
Yeah. And
that's when you were singing and it was that song.
Yep.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Remember when you sang punk rock show at the punk rock show?
Right. I'm really trying not to do that with some of these guests. With really any of the guests we've had, but it's hard to not immediately just revert into fanboy.
Yeah, and so many of these people that we've had on have been incredible, and their career trajectory is still, going way up. Leanne Morgan in particular,
she's exploded.
She just booked. So she was on our tiny little show, and then now she's co-headlining with Jeff Foxworthy and Nate Bargatze, and she just sold out a second tour since the pandemic started. Nate Bargatze is doing the Rain Check tour, and now he's doing all kinds of podcasts and things like that, and he's one of the people that we've been talking about potentially having on in year two.
I'd love to have Nate,
which would be so cool. But it seems like since we started this, and as we started to get some guests on, that our ability to book guests has gone way up because we've been able to use other people as referrals. Hey, Nancy Pearcey is talking to us, and now, that's one of the other guests we're going to have on in September is Jay Warner, the cold case detective for Dateline. Spent 20 years as their cold case detective and is now an incredible Christian apologist. He's going to come on and talk to us about some of his cases, but he was somebody that Nancy Pearcey was like, oh, listen, you've had me on. You need to talk to Jay Werner. And
I love when Nancy Pearcey, we interviewed her, and then we cut. Yeah. And then we talked for another hour.
Yeah, she was just so sweet and had so many questions for us, wanting to know about some of the stuff that's going on at the church and, what we intend to do with this. How are we going to use her content? And, she thought we were funny with the Ninja Turtle references and stuff like that. And she just like played along with everything. It was absolutely incredible. So I want to know, what are some of your favorite moments from year one of the Reverend and the Reprobate?
Well, if we're not just talking about guests, because that whole list is great. There are some that stand out with standout moments. I mean, Leanne Morgan was probably number one for me in terms of moments, because not only did we have a great interview and she was wonderful and funny, but her video went viral.
Yeah.
So that was a really cool moment that we did not expect.
At all.
We were expecting to keep up the pace that we were doing, which was growing. We're still in the growing phase, but to have a video of ours get, I don't remember what it was. Within one day, it was at 130,000 views.
Yeah, we hit
120
within 24 or within 12 hours, and we were at 160 within 24 hours, 160,000 views.
Yeah, and now it's 300 something.
Yeah. And now she's actually using parts of that video for her own promotional stuff.
Just
that
in terms of
surreal.
metrics, I've never had anything like that happen.
Right.
So that was really cool. And then getting to meet, some of her team behind the scenes and work with them, like you mentioned, using some of our micro content. But that one, David Baker was great. Joseph Carter was a big one.
Joseph Carter was a lot of fun.
Yeah, because I mentioned being obsessed, these micro obsession. That one's probably a macro obsession because I've been following him for years. My son knows him and his family and his dogs and his mink. Joseph Carter, the mink man, doing many things with mink, including pest control. Yeah, brilliant pest control. David Baker. Yeah, I don't know, man. There's so many.
I think David Baker talking about the zombie apocalypse has to be a top 5 one for me.
Yeah,
like talking about what weapons he would use for the zombie apocalypse.
And he gave a long.
He did. He gave a really good answer.
Scottish basket hilt's good because they can't bite your hand. You can punch them in the head. You can chop them. That's a good one. French partisan, really good. Long pole, big choppy blade at the front. Both a stabby and a choppy blade, so you can lop heads and poke holes at the same time.
Sounds messy but fun.
Yeah,
I mean, especially if it's on
Japanese yari, the trident. Just the name just went out of my right out here.
But you said it's a trident of some kind.
Yeah, it's a Japanese trident spear. I'm forgetting it. But
we're gonna have to post up all these pictures.
We're gonna have to throw pictures of these up so people can know what we're talking about.
I mean, pole arms would be a really good idea.
Yeah.
But pole arms that you can chop with too.
Yeah, keep them at a distance.
Yeah, like a big Kwando or something where you got this big blade on the end of a pole, and so you can hack them up, but you can poke them and keep them out of range.
Well, David Baker's guide to the zombie apocalypse.
So you've given me so much stuff.
His explanation of the Scottish basket hilt and why he had his obsession with that. Learning that guy played. I say played. Not only he was a dancer, and then he worked on a bunch of Missy Elliott's music videos. Not what I was expecting at all. With like controlling her head on the VH1 Music Awards one year. Like that was absolutely insane to get some of that information. I also really, really liked getting to talk with Moody and Jeff. And those are two memorable interviews for me because those happened during like the winter storm.
Yeah.
I was having to run back and forth to heat up cables because they wouldn't let an electrical signal go through them because the little cables were so frozen so bad. And so were like the inputs for the board and everything that we had taken. We were recording. I was recording that one in my brother's garage. Both of those episodes.
Yeah, how cold was it? It was 20?
It was -2. It was -2 in his garage. And so
you were all bundled up.
Oh, yeah. But both
asking
of those
questions,
guys,
trying not to freeze.
Yeah, both of those guys we've ended up becoming friends with. We're doing some stuff. We both talk with Moody on a regular basis. He's phenomenal guy and is getting ready to do
I won
his
free
second
haircuts for a year.
There you go. He's getting ready to do his second Dry Bar comedy special. And then my family and I actually went to go see Jeff Allen a few months ago. And he, came up after the show, was friendly, shook my hand, asked me if I was staying warm, and, just like remembered everything about the situation and stayed back after the show probably for 20 minutes to talk to us at a sold out improv in Addison. It was just one of the coolest, moments, like getting the FaceTime and getting to interact with him and that kind of thing. And Jeff's just such a genuinely great guy. But those two, because not only did they suffer through all of the weird audio and technical problems we had with that particular situation, but even on top of that, they've continued just like to check on us, to keep, kind of keep tabs on how we've been doing has been really cool.
Yeah. The other one for me, which I thought of after the fact, was Victor Dweck. Another micro obsession of mine.
Well, it can only be a micro obsession because he's not very big.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we, anyways.
No, Vic's great. You're actually working with him on a new project.
Yeah.
Which is pretty exciting. I've got to see some of the behind the scenes stuff on that. You guys are doing some killer work there.
I've learned, I think I know what I look for is a smirk.
Okay.
That's what I really like. And my wife does too. It's why she married me.
Yeah.
But the smirk that kind of gives you're probably about to get into a little bit of trouble. I like. And he's got that all the time.
Yep.
Bill Murray's got it. You have it. I have it.
I don't smirk.
Okay.
So the one thing though to talk about Victor in particular is Victor determined after our interview that he wasn't going to promote any of the content.
He didn't like the audio.
He didn't like the audio. He thought he sounded like a chipmunk, and our reply of "eat more beef" did not come across as something that he felt like was very helpful. But Vic's been another guy. He's been cool to get to know.
Yeah.
We did send him a microphone afterwards because he was just using the audio off of his iMac in his echo chamber that he has as an apartment.
Yep.
Which I'm excited about the new stuff that is set to launch in September. Yeah. That's coming out for Vic. So be looking.
Yeah, be on the lookout or don't.
Yeah, because that's what's flying is new stuff with Victor. That's what's going on there.
What about you? What was your favorite? Now, you did mention a couple.
Yeah, so the David Baker, the zombie stuff was pretty cool.
You mentioned Jeff and Moody.
And I think so much of what has to do with Jeff and Moody is after the fact, is getting to know the guys a little bit, and the fact that they've kind of kept tabs on us.
Steering was pretty brutal.
Oh my gosh, man, it was awful. On my end, it was awful, and they were not only like incredibly patient and gracious during that entire time with everything that was going on, but even since then, like I've said several times, they're both really strong believers, but they've kept up. We've continued to talk with those guys. Jeff's wife Tammy, who had gotten hurt right before we did our episodes with them during that winter storm, she's doing much better, and just the care that they showed afterwards, just to make sure that we were continuing to do well. Cross posting and all that stuff has been really awesome. I think one of the other big ones for me was the back-to-back, as we're looking at like back-to-back weeks. We had back-to-back David Baker and Stephen Mansfield, and then we had back-to-back Seth Dillon and Kira Davis.
Oh yeah.
And those two were really cool just because of the caliber of people they are, the fight that they're fighting against. A lot of the big tech censorship stuff was really cool and really unique. We interviewed them back to back, and then immediately afterwards we got our first strike on YouTube, which was very
I agree.
Which was pretty funny, but I think that's been lifted now.
Yeah. It's not on there anymore, so
at least
it seemed to have just disappeared. Right. My Facebook strike has not.
No, so we didn't get any strikes when we interviewed Doug, who is like, he's had, I think, 2 channels now that have been completely canceled and is continuing on because he was in exile. And then there was something else, and now he is unleashed. So like he's continuing to, and his local channel is blown up. Doug was a really fun interview as well. He was really funny the entire time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was funny and intense the whole time.
Right.
What for you? What was the most difficult interview?
Nancy Pearcey.
Okay, it's the same for me.
Yeah, and the reason wasn't because she was hard to interview, because she was a gem.
Oh yeah,
Nancy was great. She had very thoughtful answers, but it was the most difficult for me because that's probably the one where I was the most intimidated.
Yeah,
and it was like not even a little bit like as far as any of the other ones in comparison. Stephen Mansfield was a tough interview once it started, because we realized how outclassed we were early on. The second time with him, I think both of us were a lot more comfortable. We had a relationship. When we interview him again in the fall, I'm excited for that as well, because every episode we've done with him has been phenomenal, and he's great.
Although we are starting to collect people that have the name Steve.
Yeah,
and there's only so many Stevesies. We've already got a Stevesy, Uncle Stevesy.
We got Uncle Stevesy.
We got to come up with a nickname for Stephen Mansfield,
Mr. Mansfield,
or just Mr.
Yeah, Professor Mansfield,
Mr. Mansfield.
Nancy Pearcey was a tough one for me, because I felt like I really needed to know the material. And we were talking a little bit off air. We had the opportunity with one of the people that went to the church that I was a missionary at in Canada, Lisa Lacko, who was a
Mama
CBC.
Lisa.
Yep. Mama Lisa was a CBC broadcaster for years. She's in the Canadian Radio Hall of Fame. And she talked to us a lot about how to interview early on. Sent us some videos of some great instructions.
The approach before the interview.
Right. And one of the things she said that has really proven true for us is that research is like having an invisible army with you, at all times during the interview. And particularly with Nancy, I felt like that was important, because we were talking about a very specific subject matter. We were entering into an area where she is not just an expert in the field, but is one of the authorities on, in particular, the sacred secular split and the way that the LGBTQ movement has pushed religion. Why does
everyone look confused when they say that?
Because you don't know how many, I don't know how many letters are in it anymore. Because the last time I looked at it was LGBTQIAM plus is the last one that I saw. Yeah. And I don't know what IA
I just find that funny. Anytime anyone says
M stands for mask.
There's a Q now.
Yeah.
I just find that funny.
And so many of them seem like they're redundant. But
yeah.
Anyway, but she's an expert in that. And one of the things as I started to read Love Thy Body that she talks about in the first chapter was the split level of the two-story principle, which Francis Schaeffer came up with and built a lot of his work on. So I had, in preparation for that interview, I had read the first chapter of Love Thy Body, went back, reread How Should We Then Live by Francis Schaeffer, then came back to Love Thy Body so that I had notes on everything and had a better comprehension of it. I mean, in order to do an interview for a 400-page book, I went back, read an extra 600 pages, and then came to the 400-page book, all in preparation for that interview. And there's a couple of people that we'll be looking at in the fall, potentially Dr. Carl Truman and some others who have written tomes, but that are at that same level.
What's the difference between a tome and a pamphlet?
Whether or not you're making sales on the internet and whether or not you've got a legitimate publisher.
Okay.
Sorry, Josh. But, I think that one was probably the one that was the hardest for me, but also one of the most rewarding. And maybe it wasn't, the interview itself wasn't as hard as the prep work was going into it. Because there were some other people that we interviewed, and I'm not going to throw any of our guests under the bus, that were much harder to get good content out of. And that a lot of stuff was left on the editing floor, but a lot of what got left on the editing floor was them going, Like, okay, great, yeah, that was fun. That's really why we had you on the show, is so that you could look at us blankly. So what was so difficult?
Ask a question and answer is yes. I mean, I guess we shouldn't have asked a close-ended question,
but we didn't often, and still got yes.
Yeah.
So what was so difficult for you about Nancy Pearcey?
Well, I think you nailed it on the head. The first, having an invisible army. I was aware of her and I did some research, but I didn't read the books, mainly because me not think that good. I could have read the books, but it was the content too. Like I was apprehensive going into the episode, knowing who we were talking to, knowing that she's an expert, she's a leading authority on many things, including the LGBTQ.
Now you look unsure.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's a funny thing. No one knows how to say it,
right?
But I was very apprehensive of what would come out of it and what would be the reaction to it, more than I should have, because I think it was a very pleasant conversation about a difficult topic, but her answer to it was love them.
Yeah.
Which I think is correct. Not agreeing with everything everyone's doing, but love the person. That's a really high level, because there was a lot of detail in what she was talking about. But I think it was that. I was very apprehensive about what was going to happen, what would be the reception of it, and then what was I going to say? Like, I've got nothing.
She was one of the ones, though, that when we did, especially in the controlled rowdiness segment, like, she really shined.
And that was when I lit up. I was like, okay, we get to play now.
Yep. And the question,
we got done talking about the difficult stuff. Now we get to play. That's what I want to do.
And she gave these really thoughtful answers. We asked her, because she's classically trained in violin. That's what she went to college for. Mm-hmm. We asked her,
would she beat the devil?
Yeah, would she beat the devil? And she's like, well, the devil played fiddle, but when I get to heaven, I'd love to play. What about that?
Great.
So
good content.
There was some really good stuff there. She does
you'd win the golden fiddle, and then you'd trade it in for a violin. And
yep. So, and she wants to teach defense against the dark arts at Hogwarts. Yep. So
she would be great at it.
So there is one thing that we have alluded to a couple of times, but we've never talked about directly, that happened on the show, and it happened early on. And we do want to warn everybody.
Great content that we couldn't release.
We
chose not to.
For several reasons.
Yeah.
But we're going to show bits and pieces of it now. We are going to tell you that if you are listening with kids, we're going to bleep everything out per usual, but some of this stuff is going to be pretty easy to pick up on. And in this particular call, the person we were talking to is our expert on conspiracy theories. And we had given him a code name. We named him Alice, for this, because he was taking us down the rabbit hole. And during this interview, in order to calm his nerves, he said, "Yeah, go for it."
Alice was sauced.
Yeah, he was.
He was sauced.
He was inebriated whenever he called in,
and it led to, frankly, the most angry that I've been on the show, because he's a dear old friend of mine.
Yep.
And you are friends with him, or you were. He's passed on. He's passed on. But I was really angry just because in the moment I was like, we can't use any of this. We spent 30 minutes talking about nothing. Then after a couple of days of
stewing,
a day or two of cooling off,
you
sent me the footage, and I laughed hysterically, because it is so ridiculous, which is very true to his real name's Don. We can reveal it now.
Yeah.
Don, Alice's character, is he's kind of like me, that I just want to play. Like, I just want to mess around and make people laugh, and that was him to a core.
And in the midst of this,
his core.
Yeah, we were first learning how to do a lot of the camera work that we do now.
That was the first time we filmed too.
Yeah, so you're only going to get so this is going to be really crude. What you see is it's just the center shot is just us with the green screen. There's nothing done there. Don was wearing a luchador mask so that he could hide his identity.
No, we wanted him to. He didn't have it,
and so there were just a lot of things to it. But we'll play you guys a couple of our favorite clips from that interview in honor of the late great Don and his contributions to the show.
Yep.
You say?
You're gorgeous.
Oh, gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's camera tricks.
It really is. The camera adds 15 pounds, so we've been juggling them.
Yeah.
Put on
We have about 25 cameras in here.
No, it adds about 50 pounds.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to apologize to us.
It looks like 50 pounds.
I would say at least 50 pounds. So we got a quick question for you. We've been looking over the story that came out today from.
I had a full blown this morning. I'm just saying. I know doctors never ask that question, but I always tell them, "Hey, I had my good." You know.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. As your friend, it is an important part of men's health.
You're beautiful.
We're probably gonna have to dump it.
Hey, I'm just drinking lemonade. I just want you to know.
Okay.
Lemonade.
Sweet.
You got it, buddy. Hey. I don't even know how to go back to North Korea.
North Korea.
We were talking about North Korea. This news story came out today.
Yeah.
That Kim Jong-un orders all of the dogs in the capital to be confiscated.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of good things that are leading that to happen.
Right.
They eat a lot of dogs over there, and I mean it's just part of their culture. You just eat a dog.
That's what we were just talking about.
I mean that's the way they work.
How many dogs do you have?
Wound up with 2 of them, and I hate them. I hate both of them. I would have killed both of them. With my bare hands, I want to choke them out.
Yep.
Like, you're so stupid.
I do get it. Actually, I've got a little update.
Let me tell you this.
Hold on, I'm not done.
I'm being real. The Reverend he's cut, man.
He's cut.
Like he works out.
He's yoked.
Come on, dude. Come on, man. It looks like to me like the Reverend is getting ready to whoop somebody's ass. Like, just do it. Like, you're going to throw down and do it.
Yeah, that's probably what he's going to do. Well, we'll come back to my story.
Sorry. I sound more drunk than I am. Because
I didn't notice.
Going on. I got some latency going on.
Right. Yeah, I thought that's all it was. Yeah.
You thought it was just latency.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
There's no quicker way to make
on my
people
walls is reactive to ultraviolet light.
Yeah,
it looks
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, it looks great.
For the people at home, I don't think they can see it at the moment. But,
right, but they'll
super
get to.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be awesome hanging out there.
Cloud seeding is very real. It's a real problem. What's that called? The Olympic?
The Illuminati?
Yeah, the Olympics where the people play the sports.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The Olympic. We do all kinds of sports and cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
And we try to outrace everybody. We try to outswim everybody, But basically, we approached the Olympic Committee and said, well, what if it rains? And the Chinese government said, you ain't got to worry about that. If it's going to rain, we're going to take care of it.
You are so drunk right now.
Hey, you don't judge me. Okay? You're judging. It sucks.
It's
green sucks.
It sucks. You guys look at my stuff.
Yeah, no, yours is arguably better.
I mean, and I think it's very, very impressive. I mean,
the last thing we want to ask you about today, we kind of got on this a little
bit. Don't cut me off and send me down the road 5 minutes into this thing.
5 minutes.
We're not, and currently this is minute 17. So we're doing good.
How long?
17.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about it.
I think the Reverend has some of the best bicep I've seen in a long time. Like, come on, man, your beards.
Yeah, we've been in quarantine.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is my quarantine
I want
beard.
I want to talk about a couple things. Is that okay?
Sure. Yeah, we've got about 5 more minutes with you.
You
so-
have 30 seconds. Go.
Minutes,
Yeah.
Reverend?
That's it. Yeah.
You're gonna cut me off in 5 minutes?
We
Well,
are,
well,
but
now
that
it's-
doesn't mean we don't love
now-
you. That
now-
just means we're setting firm boundaries in our friendship.
Well, now it's 4.5 minutes.
He's full of crap. He's so full of crap. I told him I saw a UFO and he didn't believe
It was like, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. They came down and they had sex with our women and they were giant.
Dallas, and we will see you in a couple
Are
of
you
weeks.
seriously? You're like throwing me away.
And
No, we gotta go.
You need to go on a diet because I'm looking at you and you look.
All right,
more
buddy.
like
Well, it's been nice talking to you.
quick story.
Oh, no.
Well, we've got our next guest is actually calling in right now, so we need to get to him.
I love you, but you're really rude. You're very rude. Okay, well, you guys can pick off, and I love you. I really do. I love both of you.
We love you too, man. Thanks, man. We appreciate it, Alice.
Whatever. Whatever.
Just ended the meeting for all of us. What are you doing?
I don't know.
Okay, so that has to be one of the most ridiculous yet hilarious things that we've ever done.
We laughed hysterically. Again, in the moment, I was angry. You were entertained.
Yeah, I was entertained.
You did,
because of how uncomfortable you were.
You did blame me with at the very end, which is still one of my favorite. It's your profile picture on my phone. Is you going, "What are you doing?" inviting some guy on who since then you met. Actually, you had met him before.
Yeah, so we had recorded with him once, and he did great the first time.
We recorded once. That's right.
He did so
and
good the first
lost
time,
the audio.
and our computer at the time had stopped.
That's what it was.
Recording. It got overloaded with other stuff, and so it stopped recording. And we've worked out what that bug was. And so we had him back on.
It was
like
great
2 weeks
content
later.
about
It was
QAnon
awesome.
and
QAnon. It
the
had, which we can't
Nephilim.
say.
We talked about Nephilim.
Yeah, we talked about the Nephilim. We can't say that other thing, but because it'll get caught in the algorithm. But it was about some of those things. It was about LMNOP, that letter RS. You know, it was about that. It was about chemtrails versus contrails and all kinds of just really bizarre stuff. And he was great. He was sober. He was fun. Mm-hmm. This is not what we were expecting. At all. We learned a lot about people groups that eat dogs, about what I looked like at the time, which leads me to something we haven't done in a while. How is your Abs by Christmas update? How's that going?
I've probably tacked on a good 15 to 20 pounds.
Abs by Christmas.
If I'm being completely honest,
that was
Abs by Christmas is not going well unless we are keeping true to our 4 years down the road.
2024, 2025, whatever
That's fine.
we've called it.
Then I'm doing fine.
Yeah, I'm pacing myself well.
If it's July now.
Yep.
Not looking good for this Christmas. I mean, I think we could do it, but.
So, are you interested in trying again?
Not right now.
I mean, maybe in July, or I guess maybe next month when next month starts, because this week you're on vacation.
Yeah,
and that would be rude to try to get you to start when you're on vacation.
Don't talk to me about diet where I'm going on vacation.
So the day you come back, though,
going to Austin, I'm going to eat salads.
It would give us a full 6 months.
Yeah.
Are you in?
I need to solve for the gym. That's what I need to solve for.
Just go to the gym.
No, I got to pay monthly for that.
Oh my gosh. It's gonna be better than your copay whenever you have to go to the doctor. You gotta get an angioplasty
for my insulins.
Yeah,
all those
right.
insulin needles. I gotta
Yeah,
go to
that's
Walgreens.
exactly right.
I need some more. I need
Yeah,
some more needles.
I need the 16 gauge, doc.
I'm
This one's
eating
not
a
working.
big burrito while I'm doing it.
You want another fruit roll up?
Yeah. I actually have some fruit by the foot. I don't like fruit roll ups. I told you that.
Yeah, whatever.
So I think
I will try your fruit roll up Rice Krispie trick. My Rice Krispie trick.
So
he's got a second trick.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. That's if you take a fruit roll up and wrap it in
On
or
a
wrap a
Rice
Rice Krispie. Yep.
It's a Rice Krispie trick.
There you go.
I don't know. Let's move on.
So but this year Colton would have to participate.
Yeah, are you in for abs by Christmas? We do need to put the year to be clear.
Yeah, that's probably true.
2021, abs by Christmas. See, I would just
okay. Yeah, we got an.
Sure.
I would need.
Colton gave
a
us
gym
the Tim
membership
Allen
that I don't want to pay
commitment.
for. And you are right. The other thing, and this is very nitpicky of me.
Oh, here we go.
This is very nitpicky of me. I'm telling you my challenge. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like getting up in the morning and going to work out.
Yeah.
And then having time to get ready and go to start the work day.
Mm-hmm.
My wife has started wanting me to take my son, which I love in concept. The problem is he has to be back in time for school, and so we have to get up extra early.
So what is extra early?
Like 6 to give enough time.
That is weak.
I know. I know.
You go to bed at like 8. And don't say that you don't, because you like fall asleep on the couch. Everybody else is like enjoying a movie, and then you fall asleep, and then you'll pause the movie, rewind it, be like,
In
hey
my
guys,
sleep.
what happened? well, I don't know. You've been asleep for an hour. Why don't you tell us what's going on?
We just got to take this back.
Yeah, we're just going to roll this back. It's like Kirsten's like, hey, honey, we're going home.
I'm
We're
lost
done.
after Act 1.
Yeah. So I am making the executive decision that starting at the beginning of next month is what we're going to do.
Abs by Christmas
Abs by
2021.
Christmas 2021.
Okay.
All right, there we go. In honor of Brian Shaw's second place finish at the World's Strongest Man.
Who beat him?
So he was beat by Tom Stoltzman.
I don't know who that is. It wasn't the Mountain.
He's a monster. No, he did not compete because he is getting ready for his boxing match with Eddie Hall in September.
Ooh.
Which we might have to watch and report on, or
I really like that idea.
We might do a live reaction video of that because the pay-per-view is only $10.
Also, Eddie is very brave.
Why?
Because I saw the Mountain crush a dude's head.
Do you know Eddie Hall was like an Olympic
I
swimmer?
know who Eddie Hall is.
No, do you know he was an Olympic swimmer before he did strongman?
No.
Like, the guy is a born and bred athlete, and he was also in gangs growing up, got in real fights. Thor's never fought anybody, and he got knocked out in an exhibition by a guy my size.
Do you know who else is an excellent athlete? The Red Viper.
So let's give an update on the chickens. Because that's the last thing before you go all just complete fantasy. Just because you're an admin now for Christian Nerds Unite, you think that you've got all this great stuff.
Keep bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. So
you know when Aragorn kicks the helmet?
I know when Aragorn died in our Journey Through Middle-earth game because you kept sending him after people.
Yeah, because he kicked a helmet and broke his toe.
Oh my goodness.
That really happened. 2 Towers. Check it out. Chicken update.
Yeah, so we've taken several chickens out to Pink Moon Farms, which now they've got, they had their first baby goat a couple of weeks ago, which was very exciting. They've got a couple of cows now.
And that led to the funniest conversation we've had over the phone.
Oh, really?
Definitely this year.
Okay.
Was when, so Pink Moon Farms, you were going over there to feed their animals.
I was. Oh, yeah.
And so I'm driving with my wife in the car.
So my brother and his wife have had a kid. Yeah. So this is my second niece.
They have a farm that has animals on it that need to be cared for.
It also has animals on it. Yes,
whether or not there's a new baby. So they're taking care of the baby as good parents.
Yeah.
They ask their brother to go over and feed all of the different animals, of which I didn't know what all they had.
Yeah, because of COVID.
But it led to great audio on my end.
Because of COVID, I couldn't. We weren't in a position where we could go see the baby. Yeah. Because we were still, doing church, so I was around crowds, and a crowd for that per that doctor's prescription was 10 or more, and we were running between 30 and 50 at church, and so we just knew, it's going to be a couple of months before we get to see the new baby, which on the one hand really stunk. But on the other hand, it allowed us to do some things in order to help them out. So we did. We went to the farm.
No diapers.
And there were several animals. There were chickens and turkeys, a Pacific monitor, a breeding pair of Gila monsters, cows, goats.
So I call you just to talk something. I don't know.
Right,
Episode's coming up, whatever episode. Let's have a quick chat. We're chatting, and I just keep hearing you tell all of these animals to get back.
Okay, so as soon as you open up the pens, they try to come out.
Naturally.
Yeah, and so you did.
But to someone on the other end of the phone, this sounds like you're making it up.
Right, until you hear
Get
the
back,
animal.
You friggin' llamas! Get back!
So it was
what's the cow's
turkeys, name? Reba.
Reba, because she has red hair.
Yeah, and she wouldn't.
Reba, friggin' get back!
No, Reba was trying to
eat your nanner.
trying to feed Reba a banana, and she wouldn't come over.
Friggin' get back, Gila monsters!
Yeah, which you thought was a
get
joke.
Get back, chickens!
And was legitimate.
Yeah,
was that they were
okay. We'll just keep talking. Friggin' get back, you goose! I was like, where are you? What is going on?
Feeding stuff at the farm.
Yeah.
It was great. Which we thought about turning into a segment.
Great. It wouldn't be a skip, but just following you around with the camera.
The Reverend
telling
tells
actual things to get back.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was so funny.
So we've sent...
I was sitting in line at Sonic just listening to you yell at different animals. Hysterical.
So we've sent several, at this point, several dozen chickens out there to the farm. And then I've got just this week's bounty from the few chickens that we have still at our house because Kirsten wanted to keep kind of a menagerie.
Yeah, they're all different.
Mrs. Pinker's chicken menagerie. We've got some chickens that are naked necks, so they don't have any feathers on their neck. We've got a frizzle. We've got some Spitzhaubens.
Sounds German.
Yeah, which is it's a mohawked chicken.
Canceled.
I'm trying to think of what else.
Naked chickens too.
What else
canceled.
We've got those are a little weird. We've got a Brahma. We've got some Barred Rocks. Anyway, we've got just this really wild assortment of chickens.
Yeah.
But
some are tiny. Some have weird feathers. And
we got a couple of bantams. But I did bring 1 week's worth of eggs. I've been saving these all week, and you helped me gather them today. So this is what.
Yeah, we walked around and picked them up from all kinds of different corners.
Yep. So this is 1 week's worth of eggs right now is what we're getting at the house.
You could almost do a guess how many eggs are in this bucket thing.
It looks like close to 8 quarts.
Win some eggs.
And so every now and then we're getting one of these, and this is from our olive egger. And so this egg is considerably larger than all of the others. And her eggs will sometimes have 2 yolks in them.
Why is that?
I have no idea. I have no idea what causes it. But she'll have these massive eggs, and we'll compare it to...
It's weird that we're basically like holding poops.
So this is like the difference between a regular size egg and...
A chicken pooped that out, basically. And we're just sitting here holding it and showing it to the camera.
We're not going to go into an anatomy lesson of something that you don't understand anything about and will not be great for our listeners to have explained to them. But
they don't poop them out.
Yes, they don't.
Hey, remember, I'm the hot one. I'm not the smart one.
Yeah, definitely not. But it was...
we're both yummy. You're smart and I'm hot.
It's been a crazy year. And the chickens are doing quite well because we haven't done a chicken update in several months.
It's been a shame.
This is what a week of chicken production looks like.
We've gotten so focused on all of our guests' nonsense that we've completely neglected the chickens.
But they're doing well.
No one can hear you.
We talked about
that's a tiny little one.
So this is what's coming out of that little frizzle. She's about a pound.
I love her.
Yep.
Is she the one with the red butt?
No.
She's gotten it pecked. She's the one with the feathers that stand straight up.
Yeah, she's got the feathers stand straight up.
She's cool.
They look like they're crimped. Yep, the one that's got the baboon rear end.
Yeah, that was from pecking, right?
For herself, right? So she had, when she first started laying eggs, the eggs were binding. So
it's like a chicken version of a cutter.
So the eggs were binding, and she would peck at the.
See, you got the smirk.
Peck at the
You're pretending that you didn't like that. I did not like it.
I just had to preach an entire youth camp about
cutting,
about that sort of stuff, suicidal ideology and all that.
It's bad. Kids don't cut.
So anyway,
if you're a chicken, don't peck your butt.
It helps them to get the egg out whenever
I'm not endorsing any of this behavior. I'm just commenting on it. Go ahead.
Anyway, so she was doing that in order to try to help the egg to get out because it was binding because the egg was too big.
She has to peck her. She has to peck her butt.
Yeah,
to help poop out the egg.
Essentially, yes. Yeah, she's helping to move the egg out
by pecking at her own butt.
Yep.
That doesn't make any sense.
And
I feel like that did not help.
Several chickens their first season will do that. They'll have that, or so it'll either be on their tail, or you'll see it like underneath, like between their legs, where they're trying to. They'll peck at their feathers and then they'll peck at their skin in order to try to push the egg further and further towards their cloacas to help them lay, because it's like anything else.
I feel for him. Like that's a big old egg for a little chicken. Even that small egg.
Yeah.
Chicken
and the first,
also small.
like the first few eggs they laid were really oblong before they started taking on regular shapes. But once they did, they've been laying really regularly, and we're getting close to, I don't know, 60 to 70 eggs a week out of the chickens that we've got because they're really consistent layers. So that's been crazy. Way more eggs than we expected, and in all over the yard. They've got like 3 specific places that they lay.
I was surprised that it wasn't just in the hen house. There was a corner of the fence that had like 29 eggs.
Yeah, they really like this
one corner. There were some
corner.
just in the yard.
Yeah, and so I've got a ladder that's leaned up against my shed, and they really like under the ladder.
They're like, oh, this is just great.
Yeah, this is really nice. This is really where I want to lay all my eggs. So that's been wild. And just kind of seeing how they've grown and matured, being able to keep that many chickens alive. I did not realize what a challenge that was going to be, but that's been
especially the weather that we've had too. Like there was floods that wiped them out. There was animals. You had a opossum, right, that was coming in.
Yep, and we did lose a couple during the freeze. Like a couple of our favorite chickens we lost.
So the ones that survived were survivors.
Yeah, and actually, so going back to...
It sounded smart, but it was not.
Yeah, going back to the stuff at the farm, we lost some of the big reptiles that we had at the farm. They made it through the first freeze. Well, when everything finally melted, they didn't make it through the second freeze because everything started to melt, and then they laid down because several of the reptiles were
cold-blooded
in outdoor enclosures that allowed them to graze or whatever, but also kept them warm.
Yeah.
And so when it got warm, they went outside, and then like for instance with the tortoises in particular, that they got water in their shell because they went outside and were just kind of basking because it got up to like 70 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So everything was melting and it was great. They were outside basking instead of being in the the covered part of their enclosure.
Is this the one that he's had for a long time?
Yeah.
This is the one that was stolen.
Yep.
And someone returned.
Yeah, and then they brought back. I mean, these things are probably close to 30 years old. And both of them, because they went outside, they fell asleep whenever they were outside. Water got into their shells, and then when it froze, like the cold snap hit really quick that afternoon. And when it froze, the next morning they were a little lethargic, and then just never. Even when they got heated back up, they never recovered.
Yeah. Well, that's too bad.
That kind of stunk. Yeah, but it was a weird year in animal husbandry as our first foray into chickens.
Yeah.
Came and went, and so now we're trying a couple of different things as we come into this season because now the hatcheries are just going crazy with a bunch of chicks because they're trying to keep up with what last year's demand was, and so now we're seeing a lot of surplus, which is just bizarre.
Well,
I've got way too much info about chickens right now.
There's a lot. I mean, it's all interesting though.
Yeah.
There's we've got an animal update on our side too. We still have the house bunny, Ragna.
Yep.
She doesn't really free roam in the house anymore because she chewed too many of my cables. But she's still great, and we've got a spot for her outside. So Heather will either Heather or I will get up in the morning, take her outside. She has a bunch of outside time. We let her graze outside. The dogs love her. She loves the dogs. It's funny. We have this big German Shepherd, Jake, and she will want him to chase her, and he'll just chase her around the yard as she's sprinting, and then she'll go hide, and then she'll come back and find him and get him to chase her. Like, she loves it. It's the weirdest thing.
It's bizarre.
Because we'll start yelling at Jake to quit, and then eventually we picked up on she's instigating it. Not only is she instigating it, she will run around in the yard and not run home to hide. Eventually she'll get tired and she'll want to go home, but they're best buddies. She thinks she's a dog. Jake thinks he's a rabbit because he keeps trying to eat her food and then painfully passing it because it's straw.
Oh, no.
Yeah. He's convinced that whatever this little dog is eating, this little dog loves this food. It's got to taste good. Tries straw, doesn't like it. I don't get it. But we also had several foster puppies come through, several litters.
And we've talked a little bit about the foster puppies in the last few months.
We've had 3 litters come through now.
Good grief. So how many is that in total?
We had one mother who gave birth to 11. Then we had another litter come through of 6. And then one of 2. The 2, the mother had killed the rest of the litter. So we got them too. One was recovering from surgery, and but they all graduated. We only had one failure, which is what you call a foster failure, meaning you adopted them. It's just a funny name in the foster world. But Heather's parents adopted one of the girls of the second litter that we had, so she still comes over and she's awesome.
Yeah.
But
it's not foster to adopt, it's failure.
Yes. If you adopt them, it's a foster failure.
Well, for the most part, you guys have done a great job.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, Danley, at the end of every show, we like to do a little segment called Controlled Rowdiness. So just answer with the first question that comes to your mind.
I don't have any questions for you.
Segment. Well, this is actually behind the scenes right here.
Yeah.
One of us tends to prepare. And the other one of us just tends to try to manage that.
One of
preparation.
us likes to share plans with the other one.
Yeah.
And one likes to surprise.
All right. So here we go. First question. Why is Lego Batman the best Batman?
He's not.
Okay, great. So wrong.
He's not, but he is a very funny caricature of Batman.
He is. I think
he exploits some of the darkness and the very funny things about being a billionaire that dresses up as a bat to go fight crime. It's a funny concept on paper.
So your predictions for Robert Pattinson's The Batman, if your Rotten Tomatoes prediction, the over-under is set at 65. Do you think Robert Pattinson's The Batman gets a Rotten Tomato rating of over or under 65%?
Audience or critic score?
Let's go critic score.
I think... I'm really basing this off of the trailer, which is all that we've really seen so far.
But that's been almost a year old now.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think if the actual movie is anything like the trailer, it will get over 65.
Over 65.
Yeah. I think the audience score is probably going to be over regardless, just because it seems pretty good, and the audience tends to be a little more forgiving, where the critics may pick on. They may find one little thing they don't like, and then they give it a 0, or not really a fair score.
Okay.
Whereas the audience tends to just make a good movie. You idiots.
So now we're going to go
I don't know why I said that. That wasn't funny.
Now we're going to go into a year 1 test where I'm going to bring up some things from our interviews, and I need you to answer some questions. What's the name of the movie Thor Ramsey was in?
Church People.
What was David Baker's favorite sword?
Scottish basket hilt.
We interviewed Stephen Mansfield twice. In the second interview, we talked about which type of people.
Kurds.
Nancy Pearcey wrote a book that we talked to her about at length.
Saving Leonardo.
No.
Love Thy Body.
Love Thy Body. Yep.
We did talk about
Saving Leonardo. Yeah.
Love Thy Body was longer.
Brett and Aaron Kunkel's company is called
Maven.
But their website is
Maven Truth.
That's it. Leanne Morgan said that both of us were
yummy.
David Graham was funny. All right. Jeremy Nunez's new book is called...
You can't write City Hall with a W.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
Lee Harden posts more videos that have to do with his comedy or with his guitar playing.
His guitar work is astounding.
His potential soulmate's name is...
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, and I think you should follow me.
Kristen Weber.
Hey, there we go. Doug TenNapel worked on a Nickelodeon show called...
Nickelodeon show.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Ren and Stimpy?
Cat Scratch.
Cat Scratch. Okay.
Cat Scratch. You're doing really good so far.
Yeah. Ren and Stimpy, was that Nickelodeon? That was Cartoon Network. Ren and Stimpy.
Michael Gruber worked for 2 organizations that both went to the championships. Which one did he run sound for, and which one did he have to watch?
He ran sound for the Rangers, who were not there.
Mm-hmm.
It was at the Rangers Stadium.
Right.
And he did not get to run sound for the team he was currently running sound for, which was the Dallas Stars.
Joseph Carter was one of our first guests.
Yep.
We had a guy on the week before him. What wrong name did you call the guest we had on the week before Joseph Carter?
I believe it was David Merrill.
Uh-huh. And his actual name is?
Cheryl.
And he does...
I'm trying to think of the name of his shop. Arrowhead Vintage Goods.
Yep. And what do we have him on the show for?
Well, he does this amazing thing with stock motel art, and he paints different kinds of cool things, primarily Star Wars. So AT-ATs, X-Wings flying in the background of a peaceful lake in Utah. It's very funny. It also looks great.
So this guest of ours was a suggestion from another guest, and
you did
we
a great
found
job
out.
Preparing it.
Thank you. So this guest of ours was a suggestion from another guest, and we found out that he hangs out often with the guest we had on right after him. Who is this guest?
One more time.
All right. So this guest was the suggestion from a previous guest.
I think I know who it is.
Okay, go for it.
It's Jeff Allen and Moody.
Right, so Lee Harden
Lee
gave us Moody's name,
and he hangs out with
Moody
Jeff
hangs
Allen.
out with Jeff Allen, which we found out.
We found out after
later,
both of them.
Later in that
Oh
evening.
yeah, I know Jeff.
This
we hang
guest
out for writing sessions.
This guest of ours.
Do you happen to hang out with Nate Bargatze?
All right, this guest of ours has retweeted and liked more tweets than any other guest we've had on.
Kira Davis.
Absolutely. And
our best friend, Kira.
And the final one, following
Seth Dillon.
Her episode and Seth Dillon's episode, this guy, who has a very charming organization, was the first video with which we got a YouTube strike. Who was it?
Seth Dillon.
No.
It wasn't after his?
It was after his, but this is the person whose video it was.
Oh, Justin Batt.
Yep, Justin Batt with Daddy
Daycare.
With Daddy Saturday. And the very, very last, this is bonus content right here. Where did the pistol actually come from that your mom brought to the Mother's Day episode?
The woods.
Yeah, all right. The woods near Grapevine Lake. Well,
the woods near Grapevine Lake.
That's a lie, but we are out of here for another edition. Thank you guys for hanging with us for 1 year of the Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey.
And I appreciate y'all listening, even though we and all of our guests have told you not to.
In fact, you should do the sign off.
Why?
Do the little liner.
Why should I do it?
Because you did great questions for me. I didn't prepare anything.
Which makes me feel like you should do it. Come back next year to see whether or not we settle this argument.
Yeah.
No. We're the Reverend and the Reprobate, and this is why you should never listen.
This episode of our anniversary special
yeah. Cheers.
is good evidence.